When you hear the Beatitudes, you're tempted to think maybe Jesus was just in a bad mood that day. And then you realize he preached it more than once, so he must have always been in a bad mood. So listen carefully to words like this. Okay, blessed are, well, I'm not even going to go to the blessings. Woe to you who are rich, you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are filled now, you will be hungry. Woe to you who laugh now, for you will grieve and weep. Who wants to follow this religion? It's like, really? This is masochism, right? When we read the Beatitudes, they're supposed to challenge us. They're supposed to make us stop and think. Why in the world would Jesus say, blessed are you who are poor? Blessed are you who are now hungry. Blessed are you who are weeping. Blessed are you when people hate you and exclude you and insult you and denounce your name as evil on account of the Son of Man. Why in the world would Jesus say this? Because we're supposed to take it serious. This isn't just rhetoric. It's not just poetry. Well, I'll tell you what he's not doing. He's not simply giving us a lesson in karma, okay? Because he says, woe to you, or blessed are you when you're poor, blessed are you who are poor, the kingdom is yours, you'll receive a kingdom. Blessed are you who are hungry, you will be satisfied. Blessed are you who are weeping, you will laugh. He's not simply he is stating that, when we go through hardships here, there at least could be a nice reward waiting for us in heaven, and vice versa. But Christ is saying something more than that. And what he's saying is this, it's related very closely to the first reading. Where do we put our securities? Where do we find our meaning? Where do I find my identity? Because if we're not careful, it's very easy to start finding my meaning and my identity and my ultimate security in something that's going to pass. Nobody here was made for money. You're going to die someday, and you're not going to have any money with you, and all of a sudden, at the last moment of your life, it's not going to be particularly important. It's not going to be particularly important if you look good or not in the last moment of your life. It's not going to be particularly important if you had, a bad back or something throughout your life. When you're dying, none of that stuff is going to matter. What will matter? Only one thing. My relationship with God. Am I a man or a woman who truly knows how to love? Do I know Christ? And do I recognize Christ in the people around me and love Christ in the people around me? At the end of our life, that's the only thing that's truly going to matter. And there's a lot of danger, and this is why Jesus is saying, blessed are you who are poor, and then woe to you who are rich. The thing is, for example, let's take riches, let's take money. Money is a good thing. I'm going to say it right now. Money is not a bad thing. Otherwise, when the church says we should give money to the poor, the church would be saying you may as well give poison to the poor, right? We're not saying give money to the poor because it's a bad thing. But money, here's the danger. It's a dangerous thing. It's very easy, if we're not careful, to start getting attached to it. The same thing with our good health. With our good looks, with our popularity, with my position in society, with any number of things that in and of themselves are good. Jesus isn't saying they're bad, but what he is saying is this. Watch out, because they are temptations. They can become real distractions. And if we're not careful, we can go through our lives simply chasing after the best job to make the most money so I can have, keep myself in the best health and be the most popular, etc., etc., etc. And we lose track of the only one thing that the moment of my death is really going to matter, which is, am I a saint? Am I a saint? I used to, when I was in the Philippines, third world country, but I would tell kids, because I was dealing with the well-to-do kids, but I would say, look, it doesn't matter. This was back when these figures were important. Okay, Michael Jackson had just died, so he was popular again. post-mortem. He said, it doesn't matter if you are the combination of Bill Gates and Barack Obama and Michael Jackson all rolled into one. If you go to hell, you're a failure. And if you're one of these kids that's born and spends their entire life in a garbage dump, because they exist, begging and collecting scraps and everything, born and raised and die in that garbage dump, and you go to heaven, you're a success. All right? You have no degrees, you probably don't even speak your own language well, let alone any other language. You've got bad teeth and bad health and everything else. But you know what? If you go to heaven, you are a success. Because in the end of the day, that's the only one thing that matters. So, what is Christ really talking about? Well, two things. One is, I think the dangers of all the good things in life come down to two things. Distraction and attachments, right? The things that we all chase after, the things that we all like, and again, there's nothing wrong with having good health. We should try to take care of our health. And if you have good health, blessed be God. But the danger is either distraction, that it can become something that makes me lose focus from the one thing that matters, or attachment. I can get attached to it and no longer free. This is why Christ chose that as the means of redemption. This is why Christ says things like, unless you pick up your cross and follow me every day, you cannot be my disciple. Why in the world did he say that? Because the thing about the cross is, what it means is renouncing myself of anything that I can get attached to. The thing is, if I'm attached to something, I become a slave to that thing. I lose freedom. And maybe this sounds very abstract to us, but just ask yourself a question. Do a 5-second quiet conscience exam. Is there anything in my life, and I'm not even necessarily talking about a physical object. Like I said, it could be your looks. It could be a relationship, a person you love. It could be your iPhone. It could be your job or your reputation or whatever. Is there anything in my life that if I were to lose it, I would freak out? We all have lots of things that if we lose them, if God was to touch that, boom, we freak out. Okay, what does that mean? It means I am attached to that thing. It means that thing is becoming to me a little idol. It's like a little God. It's not the big God with the big G, but to us it's a little God, and it's taking a piece of my heart and holding it captive. One of the most beautiful things I ever got to witness was living in Rome during the last years of John Paul II's pontificate. So John Paul II, I was a little kid when he became Pope, but when he became Pope, he was young. He was a good athlete, big, strong, robust guy, went on hikes, went cross-country skiing, did all that. Good sense of humor, good communication skills, likable. He's a genius. He spoke at least a dozen languages fluently. He had the whole package. He's a saint, a genius, and an athlete all at once. What more could you want? Okay, and he literally was. He was an actor, good sense of humor, everything. He had every human quality under the sun, it seems like, right? And what happened? Bit by bit, God started taking it away. Guess what? I'm going to give you the gift of Parkinson's. Okay? Now you're not going to be able to move around so well. Now you're going to start falling and breaking bones, which you did. Now you're going to need a cane and then a wheelchair. Now you're going to start drooling and have to have people come wipe your face. Now you're going to lose your energy. Now you're going to be so hard to understand that people have to listen closely and read the transcription of what you're saying, because when you're out there, they say, and that's the way it was. And bit by bit, God took away everything except for the brain and the holiness. That remained. God took it all away, bit by bit. And John Paul II kept on going. And the incredible thing was, humanly speaking, the weaker he got, the more he was just doing this, the bigger the crowds, the more impact he had in culture. He allowed Christ to do whatever he wanted. 1 week before he died, he was still trying to give a final blessing on Easter Day. He came to the window to give the Easter blessing, and he just had his throat operated on. And he tried, and he couldn't even speak. 1 week before he died, he pushed himself to the very end. He let God take whatever he wanted, and he kept saying yes. That is an example of a man who gets it, who allows himself not to be attached to anything or anyone or any position or anything. That's a man who knows what it means to live only for God. That is a man who at the end of his life will be able to hear the words from Jesus. Blessed are you who are poor. The kingdom is yours. Blessed are you who are hungry. Blessed are you who are weeping, etc., etc. All of that is waiting for you now in my arms. The Father and Son and the Holy Spirit.